Today I'm here with Abby Benson. She is Interim Vice President of Administration of the University of Rhode Island. Welcome.
Thank you.
And Thomas McWhorter, the Dean of Student Financial Services at Northeastern University.
Good morning.
Good morning. And for those that don't know Flywire, we're actually based right here in Boston. That's where it all began. The best place in the world for education, so glad everybody's here. So I'm going to start with a couple questions. I'm going to do a question starting with Abby, and then we'll swing over to Tom to get his input as well. But I think it's really starting with the affordability question is, how is your institution helping students address education affordability today, and what guidance is essential in the process?
Great. Well, thank you. I'm excited to be here and excited to be kicking off the Boston Globe Summit. And thanks to Flywire for hosting this. Flywire is a great partner of the University of Rhode Island. So in my role as the Interim VP for Administration and Finance, I have the bigger picture of the university's finances, and obviously tuition and fees are a main source of revenue. But really our number one goal is to make sure that our students can be at the University of Rhode Island, that we're affordable, that we're accessible. So we want to be efficient in how we're delivering our education. We want to make sure we have enough aid to make it accessible for students to come to URI, especially as a flagship public for the state of Rhode Island. We focus on undergraduate students, but we also, more traditional students, but we also want to make sure that we're capturing the 120,000 Rhode Islanders that have started a college degree and not finished. So we're trying to make sure that we can reach that population, bring them to URI and let them know how they can be successful here, give them financial assistance to restart their career, and also transfer students, working really closely with our community college of Rhode Island. We have over 90 articulation agreements. So a number one goal for URI is how can we get students here? How can we make sure that it's accessible and affordable? From a guidance perspective, we want to make sure that we're being very clear about the cost of attendance. So that's understanding tuition and fees and other costs that they will that they will have to take into account as they're considering their college education. We provide lots of steps along the way, videos, multiple languages. How do you fill out the FAFSA? How do you understand how to pay your bill? And then we have employed useful, such as Flywire, platforms for them to be able to get online 24/7. We know from students that that's how they need access to information. For teaching and learning, they have to be able to log on at 1 o'clock in the morning if that's when they're up, cramming for their exam, be able to look at their bill, be able to pay it, have their students have access to their parents or other family members have access to the platform. And also we have a one-stop shop approach in our enrollment management office. So traditionally you've got a financial aid office here, a bursar here, a registrar here. We have them all in one organization and they're all cross-trained. So if a student calls us and they have a question, they can at least get their basic information answered, and that minimizes the handoffs, because as we know, you lose customer service and you lose the ability to provide that information if you have a handoff between offices. So getting them at URI is a top priority, making sure the information is clear and making sure they have access to tools and information to know exactly how they're going to be successful. So
that's excellent. The thing that caught my attention was this program where you reach out for students that maybe have fallen off track. And how's the success rate of that program? I'm curious.
It's going well. I would say it's just a few years old, and we're partnering with CCRI. Rhode Island is small, right? So we work with CCRI, the Community College of Rhode Island College, and University of Rhode Island. We're all really focused on that population. Mm-hmm. The hardest part is finding them, but once we find those students, we're able to give them information about, we actually talk to them. What was the barrier for success previously? What's going on in their life? What are the challenges they've had? Mm-hmm. What's their financial situation? Perhaps they have an outstanding balance. Perhaps they don't know what they want to major in. So part of it is reaching them, and then it's also really understanding what their challenges are and being able to address them.
Right.
So
sometimes it really just comes down to engagement, even as they're in that journey of their education journey, having the tools to be able to communicate, because obviously there's only a few people, and even though you have a sizable office, is how do you engage, how do you communicate with students? So I really appreciate that. Tom?
Well, thank you, Sharon. And I want to echo Abby. It's really great to be here this morning and to start off the Boston Global Summit. And At Northeastern, which I've only been there now a little bit over 9 months, and at my prior institution, I only had responsibility for financial aid, and now, like Abby, we have financial aid and student accounts under the same umbrella organization, which actually works really well. And it starts with financial aid as far as helping with affordability. So for those students who are eligible for federal financial aid, Northeastern has a robust financial aid program. We meet full need in their first year, and then that promise grant that's offered is inflated by tuition, and it's a fixed amount. So parents know that that amount is going to be the same amount relative to tuition each year. And then, of course, we have a range of families. Some can pay the full price, others are paying part. And so that's where payment plans and other things like that come into play, information and guidance. So we have, of course, flexible payment plans with a 0% interest. But also, like Rhode Island, we're improving what we do for providing information and guidance to our students. And so we're going to improve and increase the amount of financial aid staff working with orientations, for instance, have our financial services staff go to both fall and spring presentations. And we're also reviewing our publications. There's a lot of improvement we can do at Northeastern on providing more information and being more clear about the process and how it works. So I think, it used to be we would say financial aid and how you pay comes at the end of the process and just worry about admissions at the beginning. But that's long gone. Families are concerned about what the cost is for every school that their student is applying to. So we want to help guide them to understand and not be surprised in the spring when those admissions offers come out and then financial aid and they're starting to understand, how do I pay my bill?
So you do a lot of counseling on affordability?
Well, we try to do that. Of course, we're stressed with the amount of student inquiries that we have, but we have a customer experience and guidance unit, and we're beefing that up, adding staff to it, and we'll be doing more with admissions. So this is a new role for me, and since the pandemic, there really hasn't been a lot of activity in that area, so we're going to beef that up.
And I can understand, because didn't your enrollment like double or something like that in the last couple
I don't know if it doubled. I have a little note. We said 31, I misquoted it the other day. I think it's 31,000 to 48,000 in a decade. But a lot of that's graduate. We're in 14 locations globally. But we now have undergraduates enrolled in 3 locations. Oakland, where Mills College is now Northeastern Oakland, and then in London, where the new College of Humanities is now Northeastern University London.
Oh, wow. Great program. So let's shift over now to technology, and what kind of things do you, Abby, like how do you leverage technology to keep students enrolled? I'm interested to hear all those things.
Yeah, so I would say we do it in several ways. Any university operating in this day and age, especially post-pandemic, you value and understand the value of technology, right? So we all transitioned over the course of 2 weeks, essentially, to a fully online remote learning environment. So we've come out of that, which is great, but obviously we've learned a lot from that. Our faculty have learned, our students have learned, so we use technology every day to deliver instruction in ways that are useful for faculty and for students. We also have a technology platform that's a student support platform that's really important. So that allows us to do several things with our students. It allows us to outreach to them. It allows us to set up meetings. It allows us to make connections with, say, the Bursar's office. But it also allows instructors to flag an area of concern. So maybe they see something happening with a student, there's a concern, they can flag it, and then the support services can be identified to help that student be successful. Also, it allows you to give kudos to students. So if a student is doing a great job, there's an opportunity through this platform to sort of say, hey, you're doing a great job, keep it up. So I would say that's a really important piece of software for our student success efforts. And then going back to the affordability piece and how you're paying online, again, having this very flexible payment system for our students so they can log on, as I said earlier, anytime. They can see their account. They can set up flexible payment plans, whether it's at URI, you can do 2-month, 3-month, 4-month, 5-month, and it's self-budgeted. So you can put in that you want to pay just tuition and fees, or you can put in that you want to pay your total cost of attendance. As I mentioned earlier, you can have family members log on and also see the same information, and then you have different ways that you can make payments. So that's helpful. I think many institutions became familiar with Flywire through international students because we have a lot of international students who we were realizing were having a very hard time figuring out how to pay to come to URI. And obviously we want that to be seamless, but that was kind of our entree and has been successful. And so we've expanded it to our broader population. So I think without that, it would just be another, we want to minimize. I said earlier when we were chatting about this panel that higher education is a heavily, human resources environment where lots of people that are spending face time and teaching, learning, research, and we want to make sure that we're maximizing that. So anything we can do to minimize sort of the administrative burden of a student's experience through software, through technology is key, because then we're prioritizing the right things. So.
Right, I totally see that. And one of the things that you'd mentioned is, we all talk about this big enrollment cliff that's coming, and so retention is incredibly important. I can appreciate how you're sort of looking at that retention lens from the academics perspective, but also by sort of tracking what's happening with their payments, right? And that's one of the things we look at as well, is that it's trying to catch the student before they fall, right?
Absolutely.
Because it's harder to bring them back in, as you see with the program that you have now.
Yeah, I mean, as the CFO for the university, it's not unlike another business. We're not a business in higher ed, but it's easier to keep a student than it is to attract a new student. So we want to do everything we can to make sure that student is successful. It helps us. It helps the student. It helps us. It helps us financially. It's win-win for everyone. So whatever we can do to make sure they're successful and flag issues early is really important.
Excellent. Tom, want to talk a little bit about how you're leveraging technology to keep
Sure. I
students enrolled?
mean, one thing that I think if we learned anything during the pandemic, it's that what we do is a people business, and we can't do it completely remotely. And students need to be on campus. We need to be engaging with students. But as I mentioned, our growth at Northeastern is phenomenal, and I can tell you that our staff didn't grow at the same rate.
Yeah.
So of course technology is part of the reason why we're surviving, even though we've gone from 31 to 48,000 students. But it's one piece of it, and Flywire is one of our vendors that we use, and we have multiple vendors based on where their core strengths are. And much like Rhode Island, and we started with cross-border payments, and we now have payment plans managed by Flywire. We have flexibility on our payment plans where students, and I have 8 different cohorts with 8 different start dates and 8 different billing cycles. And so we are able to give each of those cohorts payment plans that are based on their enrollment length. And for fall, for instance, they start, it's 5 months, and then they get a little buck, so that deadline's gone. Now you can do 4 months. So it's easy for them to manage. And I'm looking at increasing more information for them to plan what their actual balance will be, so it's not, with the pending financial aid or other sources that they might be getting. So we do need to improve self-service. That's the one thing that at USC I was very big on, and we're making some changes in how we interact with students so we can be more efficient on our interaction, because the point is that you want students to get help for the things that they can do easily online, so that our staff has the time to meet with those students who really do need the personal attention, or that we have time to meet with student affairs and the academic units and help those students who are truly at risk and need help before it's, like you said, Abby, too late and they're already gone, because retention is very important. So the payment plan is very popular at Northeastern. I think we're going to hit about 6,000 students using it this fall. It's mainly our undergraduate students, and we're going to get probably about 150 to 200 million received in those payment plans. So that's a big piece of our revenue, and it's stable, and then we don't have to worry about it. So the other piece that we're doing, technology, is implementing the 529 payment processing 529 portal with Flywire, and that will eliminate check processing, so that we'll be able to get electronic transmission. And our student account staff will love this because each term they have to process thousands of checks. And I literally mean thousands of checks that arrive in the mail, they have to be opened, they have to be processed, deposited. And so these are little things behind the scenes that the students don't understand that we're doing so that we can actually be there in front at the desk and be able to meet them and talk to them about their either their bill or how to manage their bill or their financial aid.
It's really great to hear that. I've spent most of my career in education, and I feel like there's so much manual process that has existed where you had said you have to put a lot of people on it. And like in the space we serve, it's finding those places where we can use automation and technology to eliminate this painful administrative burden that you have. And the 529, as you said, I can remember Northeastern sent us a video at one point of like piles of 529 checks that show up in the mail. And it's incredible when you think about it. And I remember trying to think about how do we solve that, because it's not easy, right? Because there's, at the end, where that check starts is an investment company for 529s. And the only way we figured out is actually to go work with the investment firms and put in an API so that we could digitize the flow of those funds, right? So eliminate the paper, digitize it so it can deliver. And I guess it's a good feeling to know that when you're basically saying here today that you have to do a lot more with less. Like,
well, yeah. I don't know any school that's not in that position. But what I'm good at, one thing I'm good at doing is showing my boss or the leadership, this is the volume and what we're doing compared to what that time was, because they need to get that perspective, right? So we are doing a lot more, but the technology assists us. But the point is that we don't want to use technology alone. We know there has to be people in it.
Yes. But the key is to leverage technology to eliminate the administrative burden so you can spend more time in quality interactions with students.
But the technology also allows you to gather the data that you need to make good decisions about how you're allocating resources.
Right.
So you understand where the challenges are, you see what you need to do to address them. And I think without that, it becomes a very manual process and you're not able to really make data-informed decisions. So that's another just benefit of using technology where possible. But I agree with you 100%. As much as we can interact with students, but we want the things that are more standard, we want to make sure that we're able to get those.
Or even just also leveraging technology to personalize engagement. So even if it's software, but it's, hey, just checking in on you, these kind of things can help personalize interactions as well.
I'm sure it used to be that email was the thing, and now it's not email. So they're not reading emails, so it's text messages, it's social media. So we're having to constantly evolve to make sure that we're actually getting information to students and they're receiving it effectively. And so having flexible platforms helps us with that. But that's, you can try to communicate lots of different ways, but if it's not being received, then you're not winning. So.
Well, it's really great to have your specific feedback, and we also have a Flywire advisory board trying to really listen to the voice of the customer so that we can invest in the right things to help you, kind of get rid of all the pain points. I'm quoted as saying, "Hey Sharon, what do you do?" And I say, "Institutions outsource their nightmares to us. We take care of them." Why not? That's what we do, nightmare management. But I want to just remind the group that this survey that we did will be coming out later this month, and full details, we'll circulate it to obviously the people that we have on our engagement platform, and also it'll be on our website. It's a real thing, obviously, an affordability crisis, and I think being able to talk about it and really appreciate you sharing strategies will put us, hopefully, together we can make things better. So thank you so much for your time.
Well, thank
you for having us.
It's great to be here.
Thanks.
Thank you.